What's the name of our podcast again?
Mayday. I fucked it up like 3 times.
You've gone for 2 weeks and you don't even know us anymore.
I know.
We've been holding it down over here.
You have been holding it down. Welcome back to Mayday, the Handmaid's Tale podcast. I'm Justin. I'm back from vacation.
Hooray! Yay!
Much to my chagrin. Not that I didn't want to be on the show, but I did not want to return from my vacation because it was glorious. And I will officially say, okay, California and the general West Coast area, I get it. I understand. I get why they think they're better than everyone because generally speaking, it is. Mostly about everything.
I feel like if St. Louis was 72 degrees every single day all year round, I'd be a lot better person myself.
That's true.
Just bring us the temperatures and the ocean, and St. Louis would be up
and the lack of
notches.
humidity. Yeah.
Yes, I was not thrilled
Make
when
the Mississippi
all I
look
saw.
like the
All I
ocean.
saw on Facebook for like 4 days was everyone talking about how terrible the weather was, and I was like, I don't want to go back.
Yeah.
I just don't want to. It's 95 and it's humid, and I don't want to go back because outside is beautiful.
We had our 2 weeks of nice summer earlier.
It was glorious for
in
a
May.
It was.
So we are back to do the podcast. Is on the last episode of the show, episode 10. We want to thank everyone for listening, as usual. We had, I believe, our biggest download week last week. So congratulations to you guys for holding it down.
What?
Not
People
that I doubted you.
to us?
I really wasn't even concerned. Yeah, they did. They still listened to you.
That's
Wow.
incredible.
Yeah, no, you guys were awesome.
That's
Everything
good,
was
'cause I
great.
didn't know what the hell we were doing.
you did
Totally
what you were supposed
faking
to do.
it.
We like to thank also Mr. Todd for helping us out on the sound. He was my savior, really. He was the...
Everybody listening, Todd just waved. Like,
With
as
both
if
hands.
As if you can see him.
Todd just waved.
And he gave us a thumbs up.
He did, which you can't see because this is an audio show. You can listen to our radio station. We have one. It's called Handmaids Resistance Radio. It is on a Slacker Radio. You can listen to that free with the app from the App Store or the Google Play Store. Okay, so now the show. What did I miss? Did I miss anything good?
Some things happen.
I heard they went to like a place where there
Little
was
things.
stuff and licking nubs and all kinds of jazz and stuff. That was
That was
that
the
was
thing that
by
happened. That's
far
true.
the weirdest part of that.
Really?
Yeah,
That was
for
the
me.
weirdest part for you?
Yeah, they're licking the
I
girls.
mean, it was pretty unusual, but that was the weirdest part for you?
Yeah, I mean, as far as weird things go, I
Wow.
guess so. And that's the only thing I can remember right now. I'm probably forgetting something far stranger.
I'm just glad I finally found my place.
And
in
Sarah,
the
I
world.
was
Oh,
when I
that
was
you would be
when
a
I was
Jezebel.
listening to the
Yeah.
podcast. Sarah asked if anybody saw the dog. I did notice the giant dog, which was probably I think it was a bull mastiff when they were at the bar. And you said, "Did anybody notice the girl with the giant dog on a chain?"
Yeah.
And I was like, "There it is, right there."
That's getting into some weird stuff.
That was-
She didn't walk past that room in the hallway, but
No.
I wonder what the hell was going on in the dog rooms.
I was surprised nobody made an Eyes Wide Shut reference because that's immediately what I started thinking.
I see. I made a Shining reference
Oh,
only
there you
in
go.
that it was like the second worst hallway I'd ever seen on TV or
It's very
movies.
true. Very true. But I believe I mentioned to you guys that I kind of the turn that Fred took, I guess really since episode 3, he's kind of taken this right turn from, oh, maybe he's going to be okay to total creeper weed,
Not
right?
okay.
Like
Oh.
he's like...
And he put the icing on that
He
cake.
did.
Yeah.
On episode 10.
Oh, yeah.
And-
Woo!
Oh, big
New
time.
levels.
And so I was
Oh.
watching 8 and 9. I was just like, wow, he's like totally. I think when I mentioned it to you guys, I was like, he totally went from like, oh, maybe he's gonna be okay to like, and if you, I'm showing my age here, but if you've seen the movie Fame, there's a part where it's like, hey, I'm a movie producer. Just come back here and we're gonna do a little audition. He turns out to be a creeper and he's a porn guy and it does bad things, and that's exactly what he reminds me of. He's like the old dude at the club / porn producer that's trying to get you to go back to his house. It was bizarre, and he does
Never
it
go back to the
very
house.
well as you can, do that kind of thing. He plays it very creepily. So that
Who
was
was the gentleman who was railing
gentleman.
against gay rights, and then he got caught for having a
the guy that was
gay
in the car
prostitutes,
with
is
all
it-
3 of them.
Is that the foot tapper guy?
no in the real
No, not
world
the foot tapper guy.
in our world.
Oh, in the real world.
Oh,
Where it's like
the congressman in the bathroom.
the Colorado guy, Rick something. not Rick Santorum. It's
No,
gonna
that's
bug me.
immediately who I
That's a
thought it
different
was
one.
Rick
But it's a
Santorum.
phenomenon that I now am applying to the Commander Waterford, now that we know many commanders, because it's like the he who doth protest too much
right.
thing, right? Like,
Absolutely.
I have to make all these rules for other people, and meanwhile I'm doing all of that and more behind closed
I thought that
doors.
was super interesting in a scene in this episode where he was like, oh, but everybody has their,
We're
nobody's
only-
perfect. And all
we're
the
only
other
human.
commanders are like, dude.
We actually
yeah,
are perfect.
We're supposed to be.
Well, and they know about his first handmaid, so they were like, yeah, whatever. So anyways, what are we going to do about Warren? Like, they didn't take him seriously at all because he's like, you're not in the room of people where you can be like, it's fine. We all make mistakes. Like,
But you
that's
would
not
think
your
if there
scene.
was a room where one of the men could be like, we all make mistakes, right? It would be in the room full of just dudes judging another
True.
dude
Made
for
up
having
the
a
rules
sexual
themselves.
relationship. It's,
Yeah.
That's the room where you would think that he could be able to say that.
But you
It's
got
the
to
room
read
where
the
it
room
happens.
because he didn't
Clearly.
read the room and they
Rita
shut him.
gets in the Hamilton reference.
They
no
shut
matter
him
what.
right
My
on
first
down.
one, I think.
That's the you want to be in the room where it happened.
I think that he proves that you do definitely want to be in the room, because when you're not, bad things happen.
Very true.
Limbs are cut off, other appendages.
So many limbs. Somebody needs to make a Operation Gilead edition where you just like.
Oh my God.
You're welcome. Somebody make that for me. I'm lazy. I won't do it. It's like when I
Wow.
told Tiana we need to do the Monopoly Gilead edition where all the properties are the women's names.
Ooh.
You're welcome for
that's
that.
excellent.
That's right. Sarah's like Justin.
Is jail the wall?
See, jail would be. Where would
Ooh.
jail be? I don't know. I guess jail would be the wall, but
Except
then
you
you
can
can't
get
get
out
out of
of
jail.
it.
for
Yeah.
it.
You don't. I think Jill would be being locked in your room.
Yeah.
It's true.
Could do this all day.
All right, so let's get into the final episode. Overall thoughts. Rhea, let's start with you.
This is not my favorite episode. I'm just gonna throw that out there. And there are parts that I enjoyed that I am looking forward to discussing with people for whom it was perhaps their favorite episode. But there was a lot of violence, like one episode after another, that I felt like wasn't really advancing the ideas and the questions that I love about The Handmaid's Tale, and things that make me think. And how does this happen? And how do we prevent this from happening? And what should we do? Instead, we just get like 5 or 10 minutes in a row of anticipation of a violent act. And so I wasn't super into that part.
It was about the consequences more than the whys.
Yeah, and because we already know what the consequences are, I just didn't need more focus on that per se.
But no one's ever seen an amputation in Gilead. Live. I mean, we've seen...
But why do we need to?
Oh, we don't need to. Not even a little bit.
That's my
I'm just saying. Maybe that's what they were thinking. They're like, no, we've shown
You know,
all...
we haven't done yet.
we've shown all these limbs missing. Maybe what they need
Well, at least
is
they
a-
didn't show us like the eye removal. I mean, like
Oh.
it could have been much worse.
Yeah.
Could have been much worse. They have
Or
worse
the eye-
punishments
the
there.
eyes-
That's
by
true.
far-
They chose carefully.
The eye is
which
not
limb
the
removal
thing that
they
I
could
would
do.
least like to see the removal of on this show. So if we're going on the list of
True.
number one things
True.
that I would...
True. Poor
Real
Upland.
Upland would
Poor
be on the
Upland.
top of that list. We want to witness that.
Upland
They're
number
also,
one.
I'm interested, there were some continuity issues that as we
There
talk,
were.
I'm curious.
Oh,
Okay,
There
good.
certainly
So
were.
we're not
Talk
alone
about
in
that
this.
because
Yes.
Yeah.
sometimes I'm oblivious to those kinds of
Okay.
things until I watch it again. So, Tiana, what did you think overall?
I had like way more up and down feels during this episode than I typically do during The Handmaid's Tale. And mostly it was about Serena. I just kept being like, yeah, you tell him. No, you bitch. Yeah, you do it. No, wait, what the fuck are you doing? It was
Right.
just back and forth the whole time. And I was really torn. And, I loved her and I hated her throughout this entire episode. And I was so happy to see more Moira, as I always am.
Yeah.
So that was really cool. And I was happy about that because there are just so many times it could have been the last time you see Moira. And I think in this episode, we can reliably say this is not the last time we're going to see her. And that just makes my heart very happy.
So in the book, what ends up happening to Moira? Do they say, does she
In the
die
book,
in
when she sees her the first time in Jezebel's is the last
Right.
time she sees Moira.
So we don't know.
And you don't know
in
what
the book.
happens to her
Okay.
after that.
Okay, I couldn't remember.
By no means was this episode my favorite one. However, last week we talked about our favorite characters, mine of which is Serena Joy. And so seeing Serena Joy really become kind of the powerhouse that she is.
Also,
in
this week,
episode.
the first time I think that she calls her Serena.
Yes, I noticed that for
In
sure.
the
Yeah.
limo. I thought that was
I
was
know. Yeah. So seeing Serena Joy and the actress who plays her, Ivana
Yvonne
Hofsky.
Yvonne
cool.
Strahovski.
We'll give it the Eddie Izzard treatment where you go, Yvonne.
Yeah, I'll just trail off there. Seeing her in this range and I just loved seeing Serena Joy be Serena Joy in this episode. And again, it was a love-hate thing. I didn't love everything she did, and it was sort of a roller coaster, but watching her kind of shift from like her evil to vulnerability back to evil, and just that whole range of her character was just really neat for me. I loved seeing that. But no, I wasn't in love with every part of the episode, but overall I enjoyed it because of some of the meatier things that happen. But yeah, some of the violence was gratuitous.
And some of it seemed to trump the ideas of the book, or they hadn't thought of things all the way through. So I'll be interested when we get to particular points to see if people agree.
Rhea texted the group earlier in the day and was like, okay, this was like a horror movie. Don't eat before you watch it. And I was like, oh, all right. But I was thinking later, and knowing Rhea personally, knowing that I was telling Nikki while we were watching, like, I think Rhea's tolerance for horror gore is going to be a
very
little lower
low.
than
Little
mine.
It's
lower
very
than
low,
mine.
clearly.
So-
It's lower than mine too.
Yes. So I figured it wasn't going to be as terrible as I had imagining when you were telling me, like, don't eat before you watch it. I was like,
Oh, it's
I
not
was
that
going to
bad.
turn into Saw. But no, I don't know. I really liked it. I don't know why. I can't even really put a finger on it. The Serena Joy was probably overall performance-wise,
She nailed
aside from Offred in the limo, where she loses it, was the best performance of the show.
Gosh.
Oh, yeah.
She was
In the
incredible.
limo
She's amazing.
Yvonne, she was great.
Ivanka's.
And she continues to be. She's been great the whole show. But this guy, she definitely, like you said, covered her range of emotions and definitely pulled you back and forth, like Tiana was saying, where you're like, oh, I feel bad for you, but I don't because you're evil. Super evil, right? Super evil later on. The gratuitous violence, I don't know. Could you have done what they did without showing the amputation? Sure. I don't really...
It's more like, what could they have explored instead?
Yeah.
Like, why do we need to see all of this when we've already seen so much? What could they do instead?
Do we have a pronunciation on the name?
Her name is Yvonne Strahovski.
Strahovski. See, it's not even that hard. All right. Yvonne.
Hopefully she's listening. She's
Strahovski.
really excited that we took the time
It's okay.
to get the pronunciation
Hey, as somebody
right.
with the unusual name, I really
I'm that
appreciate it when
person,
people
yes,
take the time.
for sure.
Yeah.
So, yeah, overall, I did like the episode. I did think, this is probably going to be an unpopular opinion. I thought, but we did talk about this earlier, that the marching the handmaids down the street at the end, I thought that was a little ham-fisted, sort of,
But the
a little over the
music.
top.
Yeah.
See, you like the music.
The
There's varying opinions
music.
in the room
Didn't like the
on
music.
the music.
I loved it. I don't care how heavy-handed it was. It was still great.
Pretty derivative.
I'm okay with it there. I mind a lot more when it's like the dialogue is super heavy-handed, but
Right.
like that was just basically like the visual, and I don't care. It was
It
still
looked
badass.
pretty and
I
sounded
enjoyed
Agree
pretty.
to
it.
disagree.
I enjoyed it.
All right, I get it. But there were a couple moments in the episode where I was like, that was a little cheesy. But overall, I was satisfied. It did what I needed it to do. I did like the Moira story, that we got more information on that because we had to get something. And we got Hannah finally, too, because you're filling in all these holes that they hadn't done anything with yet. So that was nice. But yeah, I enjoyed it overall. So let's get into it. So we open up, I believe, correct me if I'm wrong here, with the Red Center.
Yeah, the flashback.
Right, flashback, which is the first time when she's being brought in with all the girls, which we had not seen yet, and that was kind of the one thing is like how would they? I was just interested in how would a person who's never been in this situation that just gets yanked into this like react when they're all brought in, and how did they go about the process to begin with? So I thought that was really interesting. So they open with Aunt Lydia kind of giving them the instructions on how to act, and so what did you guys think of that?
That scene for me really reiterated the fact that if I existed in this world, I would be dead. There is no fucking way. How do all of these women get corralled like cattle into this, I guess, defunct old school building and ordered around and marched in like animals and treated like slaves immediately, and nobody is speaking up? Nobody's like, what is going on here? Nobody's like, who are you, lady?
See, I'm assuming
Why are
that
you
this
wearing the weird
comes
clothes?
after Janine has her eye gouged out.
I don't think
Oh, I
it
don't think
is.
so.
I
Or
think this is them
the
entering that
possibility.
building for the first time.
But I don't know that we have
Oh.
total proof of that.
I think
Yeah, I
this
guess
is before
not.
Janine.
I guess it could be like
Because my
right
assumption
after.
is there's been enough violence already
She
that they're
seemed
already
really shocked by the
kowtowing.
cattle prod.
Oh, I didn't. I thought she was just in a lot of pain.
She seemed super surprised though. Like,
Yeah,
what the
that's
hell
true.
just happened?
Now, as far as being able to tell, I guess I'd have to go back and look and see if she had.
Oh,
in
yeah,
the
she
previous
had
scene,
the
if
ear
she had
thing.
the ear thing when they were
Oh,
sitting
yeah,
around
good
doing
call.
Good call.
the stuff where.
Well,
I
where
was
she
interested earlier in
and
the
I don't
season. I was
remember.
thinking, like, when did they put those things on their ears? Like,
Yeah.
was that a thing that they did before they rounded everybody up? I just was super unclear.
I'm not sure if it was the first time, and there's no way to know, but it's definitely early on. Like,
Yeah.
she's
Yeah.
They're wearing their clothes.
definitely,
Yeah, they're wearing street clothes.
Like, and calling them like groups of sluts and how they need to stand and walk. She's going over some pretty fundamental.
They don't know.
Things.
They don't know Aunt Lydia's name in this scene either.
Yeah.
She says her name
Yeah,
for the
'cause they
first
say-
time because
Because
they
when
don't know
she's
how to
making
address her.
making her apologize.
I
she
really
says
think it
her
was the
name.
first time
You
they were
know-
brought into that building and the first time they see Aunt Lydia.
Now that we're
That's
talking
the
about it,
impression I got.
That's
as
interesting.
We were finally working back to.
But
them
nobody is
actually
acting
getting-
like this is insane.
And that's what
when
my-
they're
that's what's
hauled
my
in there,
holdout.
they're all like basically obeying and
My
kowtowing.
holdout is
I was
something
like,
had to have happened before
what
that for
is
them
wrong
to
with
be
all
that
of you? Why is nobody fighting
reticent.
back? There's no men with guns in that room.
Yeah, but there's men with guns somewhere.
Wouldn't you still
Probably
try to?
pretty
Wouldn't
close.
you still try to run?
I
don't
say
know,
at least
but-
one person had gotten like, I don't know, totally ass beaten down before
I
then.
don't care. I feel like at that point, that early on, yeah, I would definitely be dead
But-
because I would be like smacking Aunt Lydia down, running down the hall, breaking out a window.
clearly they've
probably
demo-
getting shot.
They've demonstrated the if you're fertile and even remotely usable, that if they can break you, they're not going to kill you. So if you fight back or put up a fight, you're not going to necessarily get shot.
They don't know that though.
Maybe they do. We don't
I
know.
don't
The
think
point
they
is
do.
that we
I don't
don't
think
know
they
what they
know
know
in this
yet.
scene. I
And
don't
that's
think
part
they
of the
know.
problem. Well, not necessarily a problem with the scene, but that's what you don't know as a viewer. Like, how much have they seen and how much do they already know?
It explains why there are so few of them, I think, because it's easier to control a
Right.
smaller group like that than if I'm thinking a new society, I'm thinking of thousands of these women, right?
Uh-huh.
So, but you can't control that many in one place at one
Yeah,
time.
you need
so.
enough of a group to get groupthink happening.
Yeah, for
So
sure.
that they start obeying together, but not so much of a group that you can't control them with
So
a relatively
there
small
are
number of
obviously
people.
some of them beyond the group that's there, because the next thing that happens is the handmaids that are already handmaids, although we don't know how long they've been handmaids because they're just wearing the uniform, walk through the hallway, and that's when June stares, and that's why she gets cattle prodded, because she is not doing what she's supposed to do, which is apparently not staring at the new handmaids. And that's when she gets cattle prodded. And we see the handmaid, I believe that is the one that she's talking
Yeah,
to in
the
this
one in
episode
Mayday.
about Mayday. Yeah.
Yeah, I forget her name.
I don't know if
Anybody?
we
I don't know
know
if we
it.
know her name.
I think we heard it at some point.
Oh, maybe
No?
like in
Am I making
passing.
that up? Okay.
Maybe at the flower place. Oh no, that was fake Auckland. That was at the flower place. Anyway,
Fake Hoefglen grew some balls this episode too. I was
Look,
really
yeah,
happy.
That was
she-
unexpected.
apparently that's where the line gets drawn for her,
Yeah.
is stoning someone. So then we flash to June walking home, or Offred walking home from the all flesh store, the meat store, when she's gotten the package. They do a cool shot from the point of view of the package, which I thought was an odd creative choice. I was like, that looks cool, but the package doesn't have
package
eyes.
doesn't have
The package doesn't have a
eyes.
viewpoint because it's a package. And so
There were a few shots
I
in
was
this
like,
episode that
looks
I thought
kinda
were a little
cool.
strange.
I'm glad you thought about doing that because that was entertaining, but what purpose did that serve?
Yeah, but you don't ever want to be thinking about the shot while it's
Yeah.
happening.
It's true. I was like,
That's a
wait.
good point.
So she gets home with the package and she hides it behind the tub, which
This seems like maybe not the best hiding
Right?
place I've
It's a-
ever
it's
heard
a
of.
clawfoot
It's a clawfoot
tub.
Where is she hiding it? There's no-
it's pretty close to the wall, and I guess they're the only ones that go in there. Her and
I
Rita,
think she stuck it to the side of the tub that's facing the wall.
like wedged it in there.
Either way, she's a
Because
terrible
you see
spy.
it later in the episode again, and you see.
And
you
it's
know.
later. Well, when I really get annoyed with it is later when
she
she's got them all
spreads it all
spread
out.
out, and then she
Oh,
wakes
yeah, and
up
then
as if
she
she's going to be
wakes
so
up.
casual
That-
to just
And then
leave
she's
them all
like,
out.
she's not in a big hurry to put them away
No.
either. I was like, somebody
We'll
is
get,
going
we'll
to
get
come
to that
in.
because that
Playing
scene is
fast
a
and loose
big
with the
bag
package.
full of chums to me.
Yeah.
I don't
Bad
know.
spy.
So she walks out of the room, at which point she is promptly slapped the shit out of her.
Yeah, get out of her. That was a
Serena, that was
serious
it like
slap.
caught me off guard. She opens the door, bam.
Yeah.
Jeez.
Probably a fresh concussion there.
Yeah,
from
no
the door
kidding.
frame.
By powerhouse, I meant emotionally and physically. That woman's got a strong
Yeah.
core. You can't
Well,
unleash a
She's
hit
been
like
holding
that.
in for a long
Well,
time.
you know, she's
She hasn't had sex like
It's
once
true.
in like 10 years.
true.
She's got a lot of built up energy.
That's true. Poor
She
woman.
really wants that baby. So like, there's just a lot of pent up everything. But she
Confession
also
can't
has
be
the
good for the
leverage
baby.
because she's like 6 inches taller with those heels. So you know she's got that downward.
In this episode, later on, you see her wearing like utilitarian shoes, and I
You
was
do?
like, Justin.
Really?
she's-
Now-
yes.
Good detail.
Now before on, I texted you guys about this and about the shoe thing. The only way I got my verification on the shoes is when Janine in the previous episode goes to her new house, and when they're getting on the bed, the wife takes off her enormous shoes because she drops like 6 inches. I was like, oh, they all have them. It's a thing. Yes. So, Serena Joy is obviously not thrilled and has clearly found out about the Jezebel's adventures, and probably, I guess, the rest of it. Because I think
I
the
think
previous
she can
episode she went
deduce what
into
is
the study,
happening
right?
there.
Yeah.
I think because she went into the study in episode 8 or 9, like she just popped in there.
She
'cause
just opens the doors and then
Yeah, and then we don't
I
know.
think that was
So you're-
episode 9, yeah.
Yeah, I think you're supposed to assume that she's kind of gone in there and seen
Yeah.
everything like Scrabble and figured out.
Well,
who's been-
I imagined that was where the Jezebel's outfit was.
oh, that
was
could
somewhere
be
in there. That's
good
just
call.
what I assumed.
Maybe she found it like in the desk.
Yeah.
when she was rooting. Okay, that's a
Like
good
with
call. I didn't
his
think about that.
makeup magazines.
Right, that he just keeps around.
Yeah.
Like you do.
With his YA magazines. Yeah.
So she throws out the dress and was like, it gives a good line, which is, "You could have left me something."
and
Which
that's in the book.
is it in the book?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I did not know. See, I didn't remember. The
I was
book
glad
enough.
they put that in there. It was a strong.
But
line
yeah,
from
that
the
was
book.
one of those points where you're like, oh, that's true. That's terrible for you. And so now it's time to pee on a stick, I guess, because that's the only thing that's going to get anybody out of this situation with any kind of.
Well,
I
happiness.
was
saw
really
it
surprised that
as-
she went straight to, oh wait, you might be pregnant now that I've just concussed you.
Well, yeah, and I saw it as not even thinking about that. I'm really gonna beat the shit out of you now. But before I do, I need to make extra sure you're not pregnant, and then I'm really gonna hand
that
it to
makes
you.
way more sense.
That's what I was thinking. Is like, you get
That's
this one
probably
smack no
true.
matter what. Like, I don't even care if you're pregnant. I'm angry. You're getting it now. But then once I find out you're not pregnant, then it's like you're locked
it's
in your
on.
room. I'm gonna beat the hell out of you. Like, who
Yeah.
knows what's gonna happen? Like,
We've all
I
gone
bet
down
you're
this road
right.
before. We will go down it again as
Wow.
many times as it takes.
and she's like bound and determined now because they're on handmaid number 2. You don't have a handmaid number 3. Like, she knows how this goes. Like, this is her last chance. Not that you can't technically have a third handmaid, but you know the shame of it. And she knows that Fred's getting a reputation and nobody's fooled by the handmaid hanging herself. Like, she knows something's wrong and that this is all going to go down in flames if Offred isn't the one, or June isn't the one that does it. I
That's an
think.
I didn't think about that.
That makes a lot more sense.
Oh, I like that. I like that take.
It's
on
a
it.
heavy scene for me.
It is. It's a very heavy scene.
And it's extra amazing, my Serena Joy love, not to hijack this, but she goes from slapping the hell out of her, super angry and confronting her about the whole affair, to taking the pea stick from Offred and having this like private moment by herself in the hallway, praying or something over it, of course to be positive. And it just showed this amazing like shift of anger and her evil side, and when she can tap into this monster that she has in her, and then that immediate shift to that vulnerability of somebody who just wants a baby so bad. It was just a neat scene. She really killed it in this scene. I loved it.
And her character, I think, has developed so that she is so bitter about the fact that she helped this society come into existence and has no power in it whatsoever, and is almost like thrown off to the side pretty much, even by her own husband, who in the past we've seen has acknowledged her intelligence and all the good things that she did, and later on talks
all the
about
good
how
evil things.
oh yeah, you know, relatively speaking, all the things that she helped them do, and she's the one thing that she can get out of this is a baby, and she hasn't gotten it yet, and
Right.
so it's almost like this, like she is like the evil queen almost, where she's gotten so screwed over by everything that's happened that she's basically willing to do anything to try and make it happen.
I kind of see that in a much different light, but like the same general concept. I think she's shockingly not bitter, considering how terrible her role in the society that she helped build has turned out to be. I would expect her to be way more bitter and vindictive toward everyone than she actually is. I see the want of a baby as more of a like last desperate hope for her, her life to have some sort of meaning in her own eyes now, out of
to get
more,
some benefit out of what she's created.
Yeah. I guess I'm just seeing her a little more.
I guess I don't see how she could be more bitter outwardly to anyone but the people she's already being bitter to, because
I think she totally could. She could be making everyone's lives way worse than she is through most of this series. But I think it could be way, way worse.
The fact that she, I think, buys into it enough still that she, like, at the banquet will get up and not even toe the party line, but like in a way that makes a big change and a big difference. She's still this true believer, while holding the fact that things are really sucky for her and she's not getting out of it what she was quote unquote supposed to get out of it. She still buys
it's not working out the way she thought.
And so I'm trying to remember in this scene, so she's praying over, I kind of thought there was like these two different prayer moments going on, right? Like Serena Joy's out there praying for this pregnancy test to be positive, and you got Offred in the other room who was probably leaning up against that bathtub going, please God, don't let that be pregnant. Because it can't, I mean, if it is positive, obviously going with other than Sarah's thinking aside, which is, I don't get the crap beat out of me by Serena anymore, there's no good outcome for her.
There is no good outcome.
Well, she doesn't get sent to the colonies if she's pregnant.
Okay. Sure. Again, everything being relative, I guess.
Yeah, I've thought a lot throughout this series about, in that situation, would you be hoping to get pregnant, or would I be hoping to get pregnant or not? Like, either way is terrible.
Yeah, it's all bad.
I can't think of any real pro at all for either side.
No.
The pros are also cons.
Yes.
I don't get sent to the colonies, where I'm also going to be killed.
Right. So, thankfully, / not thankfully, it is positive, and she comes back into the bathroom, and they have this great conversation where she's like, Serena, what does she say?
Serena like gives it a blessing.
Yeah, she's like,
we've been
she's
blessed,
like trying to, yeah, we've been blessed. I don't even know what the hell she said, but Offred just says, you think I prayed for this? You think I wanted to bring a baby into this house?
And this is when it also starts unraveling, because I don't think that you change so quickly from knowing you have to toe the party line all the time to just being so free with your words that you're going to tell this woman who just gave you a concussion, like, yeah, you're full of shit and I did not pray for this baby that you're going to take. Like, there's something seem disjointed.
It does seem rather abrupt, but I do think she's been like slowly moving toward being more free with her language with Serena, but this did seem like a big
It was a noticeable shift.
Yeah, and I think from a writing character standpoint, you're just supposed to assume that she's like, that it clicked miraculously.
She's just done.
And that it's clicked in her head that she can't hurt me because I'm pregnant with her child. So there's really not any more harm that can come to me, no matter what I do or what I say.
And later I can see that. Right in that moment, she literally just found out. So I don't think she's using
I was kind
logic.
of thinking, like, she just got a concussion. She's probably not thinking super straight right now.
Do crazy
Like,
things to your
I imagined that she was. I did not imagine that she was in there praying that she wasn't pregnant. I imagined that she was just trying not to lose consciousness.
Also,
like that was her goal in the moment. Was just like, stay awake.
But then Serena, of course, comes back with the line of, he knows what's in your heart. And I was like, oh my God. It's like the people that like quote Bible verses at you for the answer to everything. That just drives me insane.
So in that moment, you think that she's so baby crazy that she doesn't hear what Offred says, because Offred's like, I think I want to bring a baby in this house. And that's a pretty... Yeah, it's a pretty strong statement, okay? And then she's just like, he knows what's in your heart. And you just think, oh, well, she's just not even listening or doesn't even care. Like, she's so excited. But then I feel like she stored that up in her evil heart. Like, and she was like, oh, you're like going to get it, lady. I'm going to have my moment right now. But in a moment, we'll talk about babies and houses and how that goes. Because I was just like, wow, she totally didn't even acknowledge that statement. Not that she was going to hit her or anything, because now the physical boundaries are off. But Serena Joy should have fired back, right? Like, but she didn't. Yeah. But then she did later, because that's her evil. She, like, stores it up and then launches it out later at the most important part. Yeah, like, it's a truly...
And then her heart shrank 2 sizes. Instead of bursting out of the body, it's like bursting inwards. Like
it's imploding upon itself.
Her imploding heart.
Yeah,
so then we get a flashback to... It's just a very short one, but it is kind of heartbreaking with her Offred laying in the bed, and she's feeling her stomach, and we flash back to her and Luke under the covers, and she's feeling her stomach, and they're talking about the baby, and because I guess the baby has kicked or done something, because they were trying to figure out whether it was a fist or a foot. I'm talking about having the next Serena Williams that's going to make them millions of dollars, and joking around about that.
And now that Serena Williams is pregnant, it's great.
It was amazing.
Really nice,
I know.
drop there.
Yeah, they must have done, and that was filmed way before anybody knew she was pregnant.
Maybe somebody had the in on that. So then we have the Serena and Fred showdown in the study, which contained my personal favorite part of the show that we'll get to right at the end. So Fred walks in and Serena is just there, which if you're a married man and you walk into a room that is generally yours and yours only, that's a bad sign if your wife is sitting there waiting for you. Yeah, that's not a good thing.
That's funny.
So Fred's like, hey, what's happening?
Welcome to
We arrested
the
some
man
Marthas
cave.
and stuff, and they were going to blow things up. And then talks about people not giving up. 'Cause I love
These
it.
people.
I can never tell if he's serious about that kind of stuff, where they're like, don't these people just ever just want to give up and let us run this country the way we want to run it? Like, no. It's awful and horrible and everything is bad.
At that point, I'm like, he must have been smart enough to be part of this cabal or whatever of men who literally overthrew a country. That takes some
and
brains.
he's surprised that somebody
But
else
then-
wants to do it.
Then he really
Like,
does
come on,
not
people.
seem to have that much going on upstairs in any of the episodes.
No, he is definitely
So,
yeah, and like
what is
I
he
don't
bringing to
think he
this
brought much except
coup?
Serena to
Yeah.
his
That's
original
fair.
coup.
I
I mean,
think
like
it's-
Serena's brain was like helping him out a lot, and he didn't do the planning of the attacks clearly because he got texted
just
about them in the movie.
Brought the penis.
So I think he just, he brought Serena.
And so Serena's sitting there and he's talking about a bunch of random stuff and she's like, I forget how many tiles you picked to start. And he's like, 7. And he's trying to play it off. He does play it off pretty cool at first because I think in the end he knows that he's the man and she kind of, in the end, has to do pretty much whatever he says to a certain extent, although that obviously doesn't matter in the end. And she talks about how she's a smart girl and I bet she's really good at this. And so Fred has basically figured out that
his
Serena-
little mansplain of like, you shouldn't be doing that.
Right.
You know that's a good
You know the
against
rule,
the
you know the
rules.
law. And she's like, yeah,
She's
I
like,
helped
yeah,
to
I
write it.
know I wrote it. Yeah, I'm like,
And then you're like, oh,
You
I feel
idiot.
bad for you, you evil, heartless. So we figure out that she left lipstick on the collar of the cloak, which I figure is like, come on.
That is how she finds out in the book too.
Yeah, is it really? See,
oh yeah.
That's
all these
from the
things I
book.
don't remember. But come on,
Again,
Fred.
not
That-
much upstairs, Fred.
Fred.
You don't dry clean the cape, you dumb.
Yeah, that
Well,
does seem
Fair
pretty.
101.
Well, to be fair, the second time when he took her, Serena was just home. And
Yeah.
he just figured that she
Yeah.
wasn't going to notice that we were
Yeah,
all gone
she
for a
was
few
just
hours.
upstairs.
You don't know if he's a dum or if he just doesn't care. If he just doesn't care, if he's
No,
like,
I think he's an
like
idiot.
Why
Justin was
choose
saying,
one?
ultimately, what's she gonna say?
Yeah.
I did this now.
And so this is the point where Serena kind of loses it on him initially. And was like, you need to keep your hands off her. You need to control yourself, which I thought was like an interesting choice of phrase. Like that Fred has these urges that he can't keep under control, which I was like, oh, that's interesting.
Which didn't seem to be the case earlier.
No, it did not. But then he kind of turns the tables on her because he's a man in a man's world and says that she brought sin back into this house on her back and on her knees.
I
Which
had to rewind
gonna go
and
ahead-
rewatch
Me
because I did
too.
not understand what he was saying. And then I thought, like, is it literally that she wanted to have sex with him?
Is
That
it
one time.
that one
Right?
time? Is that what
Yes.
we're to
And they're
assume?
married, but then it, like, according to whatever, I guess we're also assuming some kind of continuity with their biblical interpretation, which is not a fair assumption, but there's nowhere, and even when you talk to people who have pretty strict sexual mores, there's no assumption that sex while married is bad. It's the outside of marriage. So I don't know where he's getting this, like...
I think it's that one time they had sex. I had to think about it too and rewind it twice. I think it's the one time they had sex and then the one time she tried to fluff him up.
Yeah, because the fluff.
on
There
her
was no
knees,
fluffer.
there's the on the knees part.
There's
Yeah.
no
That's what
fluffer
I thought the
available.
knees
Yeah.
thing was, and I thought, oh, does he consider that lust and temptation? Is that what he's
They're married. It makes no
because
sense.
that was
Yeah, that was some pretty
didn't
sad lust
seem-
and temptation.
Anything but
if
hot.
That
Yeah, I was
one
like,
time
ew.
they had sex, and that one time she tried to basically do him a favor.
The only thing I can think is that maybe it falls into, like, the masturbation category that some religious traditions have, that it's like wasting seed since they know they can't get pregnant, that like they shouldn't be doing it at all, I guess,
Right, so
because
that any sexual intercourse that is
outside of
not
procreation.
intended for procreation is a sin, basically.
And I'm stretching even to
Yeah,
get there.
is
'cause otherwise
lustful
it
and
could.
therefore is
I don't know.
that is
I feel like there are people who have modern, like modern as in current, not modern as in like up to date issues about sexuality. That sounds just as equally crazy as other ones I hear today. So that totally makes sense to me that, it's not for procreation, therefore it's not proper.
Yeah. I mean, that is a thing that people do.
Oh, yeah.
So
even though
sure.
it's with your spouse.
that's my only understanding of his on your back and on your knees phrase there.
That's
Yeah.
kind of what I was thinking.
That does seem to kind of subdue her in a way where she's
And
like, oh, good point.
It's
like,
the weirdest, like, sideways victim blaming ever, because she's not really
Well,
the victim
he's-
here, but I mean, it's
at that
it's still
point,
pretty terrible.
he's grasping for pretty much anything he could. That's really the only thing he has on her. Because other than that, she's been, I mean, aside from setting up the affair with Nick, which he doesn't know about.
At that point.
She's really not done anything to
Yeah,
make
she's
him...
way better at following
Yeah.
the rules than he is.
Well, she's also way better at hiding things and being sneaky
Well,
and
it's 'cause
devious.
she's smart and he's
smart
not.
in general than Fred. So he gives her the line, everyone answers to God, you answer to me.
Oh.
So
Yeah.
I was just watching like, oh,
I recently had a conversation with a friend about.
Oh, wait, sorry, I forgot. And he ends it
Okay.
with, go to your room.
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
Oh, and he points at her and just, oh, damn.
Man.
That
So we were
was
discussing
rough.
the recent Duggar wedding.
Wait a minute.
Anybody watched
How do we
this?
get to the Duggars?
Wait for it. So Joanna Duggar, who's 19, just got married to like a family friend named Austin, and they have this wedding. And apparently, the album, the picture album online, was titled "Joy's Transfer of Authority." So a friend texts me and is like, "You know about religion? Like, what's this about?" And I'm like, "Well, it's the transfer of authority from her father to her husband. Like now, Joy doesn't belong to her father anymore; she belongs to her husband." She's like, "So you don't think this is some like fan snarky thing?" No, it's a literal. It's a literal.
No, it's a thing.
It's a
Yeah.
thing.
Wow.
So and then we get this illustrated with our friend Fred here, his authority over Serena.
Go to your room. I just thought was a... Yeah. It's not
He
the way to
really
handle
does it. Like, I was like, what? You're going to do it. You're going to really do it. Like, you can't just be like, no. He's like, go to your room like a child.
What would he
Or go
do, though? I
upstairs,
mean, what
yeah.
would he do if she fought back? He needs her. He is not smart enough.
And that starts, it's a good point because it starts the
What
chain
would
of
he
people who
do?
need each other, right? Because they needed Nick to get June pregnant, but that's not allowed. They need June to get them pregnant, but they can't. So it's this chain of people who need
Yeah,
each other
they
but don't
all
want
rely
to.
on each other.
So they can only
But
push each other so far.
Ironically, Fred is the weakest link.
Right.
It's true.
The
Fred's
weakest
seed is
link.
weak.
You are.
You
are
are
the weakest
the
link.
weakest
I
link.
missed that show.
Everyone was thinking that. I'm just saying it. All right. So at that point, I believe is when Serena says that Offred is pregnant, and she gives him. I feel like she does this on purpose. Gives him a little room to
Oh, yeah, she does.
kind of celebrate and be like, "Oh, that's great," and then she's like, it's not yours." And I wrote down
Jackass.
this whole quote because I loved it very much. It's not yours. You're weak, and God would never let you pass on that weakness. You can't father a child because you're not worthy. Which I can't think of anything in that society that is a worse insult for the guy that's supposed to be like this. I mean, and if you're going by, how powerful he is, as we've been trying to figure out, if you go by the men in the room, generally the men in the middle of the table are your most powerful guys, and he's sitting right next to the guy whose name I cannot remember for the life of me, other than he was Nick's employment guy.
Oh, right. I forgot
At the
about that.
table.
Yeah.
So obviously Fred is pretty high up, and we assumed that, but we never really able to confirm that beyond our.
Yeah, I
just
wish they had like
assumptions.
real titles that weren't just all commander, so that
Commander.
I would have some
And,
idea
yeah.
of like who does what.
She's probably right? Because we've heard now from multiple kind of sides
Oh,
that
yeah.
the commander, but she doesn't have proof in that moment
No.
either.
I
So
feel like
she's-
everybody could be pretty sure it's not his.
Well, we can, but
Well,
he can't.
we got the doctor who said it when.
But don't you
she
think
went to
that
the-
he realizes that probably this is a second handmaid, even with extracurriculars, and he's not made a baby yet? Don't you think he has probably
I think he's
figured it
got
out?
some room in that arena to be like,
It could be mine.
I want a DNA test, or I don't know, something, which would be
I'm sure
totally
that's been
outside the
outlawed.
world of whatever.
Going to Moripovich.
But you know how it is, like, well,
Fred, you are not the father.
let me back up, Sarah. Sometimes if you want a baby and it doesn't happen right away, you're like, oh my God, it's me. I can't have a baby. I don't know what I'm going to do. Like, you try for like 1 month and it doesn't happen and you're like, ugh. But maybe that's a woman thing. Like, maybe men don't think those things. Like, when men are trying to have babies, they're just like, like, maybe I'll try next time. Like, I don't know how guys' inner monologues are about that, but women definitely are, some women.
What was I just reading about? It might have been that race piece, actually, about fertility and about throughout history that it wasn't known until, I don't know, whatever X year that I can't remember right now, that it was
they
always
used
just
to believe
assumed
that the baby was fully formed in the men's sperm, and it was just implanted in the woman like you plant seeds in a field.
Yes, that was the exact
And
analogy.
so, like, if something went wrong, it must have been the woman.
Which is why King Henry VIII could just go through wives, right?
Yeah.
Because clearly it's not him.
Yep.
Clearly it's the woman. Kill her off. Go to the next one.
Well, maybe Fred would never believe that he couldn't father a child. I don't know. But either way, Serena
Again,
said
the
it.
brains department.
Serena said it. So even if it's not true, whether or not it's true, she
Good
said
point.
it to his face, and
That's
that
kind of
was
all
amazing.
she got. Yeah, at this point. That's what she can say.
Yeah,
That will hurt.
I guess I would say, just if we're going to generalize the male brain and, you know, overall, that outwardly expressing that is probably not something that guys will do until farther down the line, probably after
A few years.
many times of probably making it seem like your fault. Not intentionally, but just not wanting to feel like they're the ones that, you know, are to blame. I have no personal frame of reference for it because, like, I didn't get to try for a month. We tried, like, once, and it was like, BAM! I was like, oh, really? I thought we were going to
Everything my health teacher said was
It was
true.
like-
Being
Oh,
24 is great.
Damn. All right, so after she has insulted Fred, his manliness, his seed, and his lack of strength, we'll say.
His fortitude.
She walked across the room and, just for good measure, tosses Scrabble across the room.
Fuck
which
this
is-
game, too.
Fuck Scrabble. I was like, that was hilarious.
That was awesome.
so amazing. Cause
It was very childish, but it was amazing.
It was totally like,
It
it was
was
totally
awesome.
It was totally something I would
because
do.
everybody would do that.
It would feel awesome.
You know, she just turns around, she's walking across, and she sees the Scrabble board, and she's like, fuck Scrabble. All right, so we go to Offred in the kitchen, I believe, is where we go next. Offred in the kitchen, and Rita is pumped. Now, I need to talk to somebody about Rita because I don't understand this character. So, is she really excited? Like, she's bought into the whole thing?
No, I don't
No.
think she's excited because she's bought in. I think she's excited because she just wants there to be a baby, for there to be something happy.
Okay.
Yeah.
in the
Yeah,
world.
like-
And
It's
she doesn't
just-
want June to kill herself.
All right,
Yeah.
and that's fine. But
No, I don't think she's bought in at all.
Okay.
I think she's
Because-
just trying to get along and wants a little joy in her life. And who doesn't love a baby?
This is true.
I just didn't
I mean,
read- and I just didn't read that
obviously,
into it.
Serena's friend doesn't like babies. But other than that
Man,
mean
she
lady,
doesn't like
who
babies.
doesn't love a baby?
Mrs. Warren
Nor
doesn't
two-handed
like them.
husbands, but
Yeah, she is terrible. Ugh.
I love that little part about Mrs.
Who
Putnam.
does love a two-handed husband? Make them all one-handed.
I think most women prefer a two-handed husband.
you don't need them. You don't need two hands.
Yeah, you do.
So,
What
okay,
is that?
oh no, the Rita thing really did bother me because I didn't read into the, oh my god, let's just have a baby so I can quit having all these terrible things happen in my house. Because her and Serena having scotch last week talking about her son dying in the war, which I meant to talk about this. But Rita assumed that she was on the other side fighting against Serena's
We
side.
talked about that a little bit while you were out. Yeah, I mean, we were speculating like maybe he was fighting against, or maybe he was just like an innocent bystander. I mean, lots and lots of people must have died.
Yeah. But did she say fighting in the war or fighting?
She
or
just
in the
said
war?
he
died
died
in the
in the
war.
war, is what she said. So it's
So we don't know
very
if he was
ambiguous.
actually-
That could've been like
But you saw like
firebomb.
Serena Joy take the left turn and just like totally avoid that.
Oh, and that
subject.
was the thing that made me think of the people that throw Bible verses out at you to make you feel better about life.
Yeah.
That was the part that drove me.
I don't think they do it to make you feel better about
No,
life. I think
don't,
they do it to
'cause
shut
they
you
don't
up.
have anything.
Make themselves
Well,
feel
and
better
to
about it.
detach from a very human moment. Because Serena,
What?
I'm sure some people throw Bible verses out at other people in a genuine, trying to be kind and helpful way, but I don't
versus
think that
impact,
is
my
anybody
friends.
in this show.
I don't know, I feel like they're all followed by like "bless your heart," which is like the southern insult of the universe.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
All right. So Nick's down there, of course, because he's
Does he
There.
work anymore? He used to polish the car a lot. Now he just like sits and broods.
no. To be fair, the polishing was in the book. In this, he was the only thing I've seen him do is rock. In the first episode, he's
No,
he's
you
shoveling rock.
see him polishing the
Does he
car with
polish
his
the car?
hat askew a couple of times because they established that is how she knows that she is supposed to go see the commander that
Yes.
night in the beginning of their
okay.
meetings.
All
He
right,
just sits with this. Okay, another great classic TV reference. I don't know who watched The OC, but Ryan Atwood from The OC always brooding.
When did the OC get to be classic TV? I'm sorry, back up.
Well, I guess in the
I call bullshit.
it just had its 10-year anniversary or something, and so that
No.
freaked me out.
It's- No.
It did.
You cannot call it classic television.
Well,
I'm sorry.
I mean classic in things that I think are gems that other people mock me for watching.
Right, there
if
you
we
go.
can go
I
there.
will join that club.
So Ryan Atwood used to just like sit and brood all the time, right? He'd be in his tank top and he'd be brooding, looking out at the ocean or brooding at the kitchen table, and that's what I feel like Nick has become. He just sits and broods in different locations around the
He's
house.
basically a teenage boy.
Fair
Are
point.
you saying that he may or may not have one or two facial expressions?
He has Ryan Atwood disorder.
All right, so Nick's there for probably no other reason than to be there, and figure out that Offred is pregnant. To which she's like, "It's terrible," and he's like, "No, babe, it's not terrible."
Oh, I wanted
Yeah.
to punch him. Oh
He
man!
did have a little,
And he's
like,
"Let me
Keanu Reeves
pet your
moment there.
belly. I'm
Where
just
he's
gonna
just like,
we're gonna make this all about me again.
Yeah.
Oh, worthless Nick.
I didn't even think about that, but that's totally true. It's like, oh, I know this sucks for you because
But
you
I'm
probably
so
didn't really want to be
happy.
pregnant. But
I'm so happy.
It proves that I can have kids, which comes
Yeah.
back to our earlier discussion. I am virile, and that is what matters in this entire universe.
yeah. So
I could have done without that scene entirely.
yeah.
Why'd you
Although
put that
very
in?
interesting
And
that Serena
risky.
Joy walks in on them and then does not comment on that situation.
Which I also don't buy.
I don't buy it either, but I thought it was super interesting play on the part of the writers to like have her just be like, okay, I'm gonna accept this as a thing because I started it, I guess.
Yeah.
I was gonna
Like,
say she
I
kind of had a
caused this
hand in
situation.
it. So, and she knows
That
what.
still is going like really far. Like they are physically touching and having a moment, even though Offred is like not really wanting to have that moment in the kitchen in the house where anybody could just walk in. Everybody will know what's going on. Clearly,
Which looks like Little Shop of Horrors, in case anybody didn't look around.
Totally does.
It looks like the plants are going to start eating them soon. Like, it's out of hand. Anyway,
That's awesome.
not a
Now I'm
useful
just
comment.
mixing these two. Hold on, I'm mixing these two
Seymour.
things in my head, and it's glorious.
Feed me.
Feed me, Seymour. So maybe it's just because Serena knows she's about to do one of the most
I was
horrible
just-
things
True.
that anyone
I
has
was
ever
just
done.
gonna
The
say,
Joe
she was
Carter
just like, I'm
shit.
gonna,
I'm
already
gonna let
cooked
this
up
one go
thing.
because I'm gonna torture you like
The
you've never
torture
been
porn
tortured
continues in the next scene.
Yeah, so
I think she thinks she's doing a bit of a kindness. Honestly, I think the threat is what she sees as the terrible part, but I think that she thinks
no.
that showing her that her daughter is alive and quote unquote
Also, call
well.
shenanigans on the threat. Like, I don't think in a child-hungry society that she would have any way to like
I don't think
endanger
that
a child. I just
agree.
don't buy it.
Like, how would that happen? Who is she gonna get to do that?
Yeah,
but
Nobody.
Offred doesn't know whether she does or not.
I think
I
Offred is
don't
not
know
that
about
dumb.
Why do you think that
Like,
would
it's
be?
not pleasant, right? I get that it's,
Also-
but I don't think. I think that showing her and then taking her away is the part that is painful. I don't
yeah.
think that like thinking that she's gonna hurt your daughter, because I just don't. Like, any logic tells you that's not gonna happen.
Also, I don't think Serena, the character, is stupid enough to do something like that to Offred and not expect that the next time Offred catches her alone in a hallway that she's gonna murder her. Because I would.
Good point. That's a good
I
point.
would tear her to fucking pieces.
So the Serena sees them and she's like, "Get your coat." She hadn't even eaten breakfast yet.
Yeah,
that
like
was
pregnant.
I was like, man,
I'm so
she's
happy
gonna
you're
puke on
pregnant.
you.
You don't need
she's
to eat.
pregnant. How about we give her a little breakfast before the car ride?
Last time she got good food.
Rita clearly worked hard on that breakfast.
I
She
know,
was like
Rita's
giving her
probably
the
like,
best of
"Again?
the best.
Cereal? Seriously. So and Nick's like, "Hey, need a car?" And Serena's like, "No,
Not
I don't need a
yours.
car. I've made other arrangements."
your car.
That is a bad sign.
That's a bad sign, just in case you know, if you have one job and you're the only one in the house that does that job, and someone else says, "Nope, got this," and you're like, "Oh, okay."
Yeah, do you think she can get rid of Nick? Because he's an eye and she doesn't know that. Like, can he just
she
like...
can get rid of Nick.
But do you think it would work?
I think it would backfire
Would
on her.
whoever was in charge of the eyes just be like, nope, I don't trust you. He's
Maybe.
Yeah,
staying.
for sure.
Because I would guess to assume that she doesn't know.
Because the guy
Nick's
that placed
spying
him
on her,
there
obviously.
is Fred's boss, right?
right.
I mean,
Yes.
that's what's implied by like the seating arrangements that we
right.
see.
Yes.
Like,
As he is the other, either 1 or 1A
yeah.
with Fred.
So, I mean, I kind of feel like Nick can just do whatever the hell he wants because
Nick's like the
he
untouchable
wants
eye,
to. Yeah.
but nobody knows it except
I
for
mean,
Nick.
you know, but he's Keanu Reeves, so.
I would not put him in Keanu
There's a
Reeves
bomb
territory.
on the bus.
I am an FBI agent. He's not that bad. And I also don't think that Max, whatever his name is a bad actor at all.
No, I think he's just
this
not
is a
given enough.
Not
I
a-
think I just
no,
don't know
like,
if he's a good actor because this is the only thing I've seen him in, and I
He
just
was in-
can't tell
he's-
what's going on.
He's in the Facebook movie,
Oh,
That's right.
That's right.
and he's good in that. That's the only thing I've seen him in.
He is good in that.
I just don't think the
forgot about
material that he's given to work with, as is sometimes the case with actors, is very... it's not in depth enough. Like, even when they go into his backstory where you finally figure out that, okay, Nick's a little gun shy on most things because of his brother.
This is definitely
who's
something that could be the
drug addict,
direction that he's given.
Yes.
But it still just makes the character super flat and boring.
Oh, I agree.
And irritating.
No disagreeing there. So we get a long drive and don't touch the curtains. Did anybody else not understand the don't touch the curtains things other than to just...
I didn't understand that. Was she supposed to not be looking at how they were getting there?
That's what was my assumption.
But she can see out the fucking windshield.
They were going. Okay.
Right.
There are no curtains over the windshield. She can see where they're going.
That's true.
But she's
Why
like,
does
I
it
guess
matter?
it was
She's
like kind of
touching the
obscure.
curtains.
I guess
I
if they have
understand.
the divider up,
thing.
maybe.
But it's clear.
Well, when they're doing that part, I know, like in some limousines, there is a clear / solid option. So we get to the building, and she's like, "Offred, you chill out here. I'm gonna go up here." And Offred is constantly trying to figure out where they're going, and she's like putting on the little kid voice, like, "Where are we going, Mrs. Waterford? Where are we going?" And that to me is like the most. Rhea rolled her eyes. Look at that.
I was annoying.
No,
I was annoyed.
But I gotta say, I do that in real life. When I am freaked out or when I am like scared of something, my voice gets very small and I start talking like this. And this is something that my husband tells me all the time. Like when I'm really upset or like really feeling my feelings and I'm not angry, my voice gets very little. And like I feel like that's what she was doing, and that's a real thing. Like I see other people do this.
The only counter is that I don't think she does she think that she's going to be told? Like they don't have a relationship. It's not like she's like, I'm being really vulnerable with you.
They do have a relationship.
Right?
It's just a super fucked up one.
She's not going to tell her.
So she walks up, and that's when she brings out Hannah. At which point you're like, "Oh, this is so wrong.
Yeah.
This is like the most wrong thing in a show that has done a lot of wrong things.
Yeah.
Much more gratuitous, much more physical. But this is like the bar.
This
I think.
this is probably the most psychological torture that we've seen so far.
Easily, I think it was just heartbreaking. Like just watching that, because you put yourself in your shoes, her shoes as a parent, and the one thing she's been trying to do, and the one thing she's been holding on to is, where is Hannah, and I gotta find Hannah, and there she is, like 30 yards away from her,
so
and she
close.
can't get out.
How does
the
Hannah
car.
not hear her screaming from inside the car? Like it's not soundproof.
I don't know. I did think about that while they were doing that, as far as logistics are concerned. But
I don't know.
It seemed far enough away.
Yeah.
And you're not looking for it. Like there are certain things that
That's
like
true. Hannah
if
wouldn't be
you
looking
knew
for her
what
mother to be in a car.
right.
True.
Like she wouldn't be like, is that my mother screaming in a car? Like I think if she knew that there was someone close to her, like if somebody had hinted to her, maybe she could have seen it. But I think if she just thinks she's visiting with a blonde lady today outside of the school or the house or whatever, then she wouldn't be thinking about it.
What do you think Serena said to her?
I was thinking about that. I mean, how old is Hannah again? 8?
It's supposed to be like
8 or so, 7 or 8.
10-ish range, I think.
I think she was supposed to be like 5 when she took her away, right?
I don't
Yeah.
remember.
Something like that. So like
7 or 3 years. I have no idea.
7, 8.
Just anything. It seemed like a pleasant, light little visit. Like, look at the trees, or how's school, or something.
Well, I mean,
Yeah.
Hannah doesn't know she's the most evil woman on the planet,
Right.
Yeah, we know she can fake it.
as far as we know. Oh, yeah.
I don't think she's being educated. So probably not house school.
Oh,
That's for the boys.
that makes me sad.
Yeah.
I forgot
Handmaid's
about
school.
that.
Yeah.
She's
How's
learning
balancing
about-
a book on your head? or whatever.
that was my other thing, was like, what are the girls
I feel like they just get indoctrinated and that's it. They just like get lessons and Bible studies and
I imagined it was like finishing school
Yeah,
or
that's
something
what I
like that, where like you walk with your hands down and you cross your legs and put your hands.
How much
on
of
your
that could there be? Like you just like teach them to be docile and
True.
that's it.
Maybe
well,
there's some
I imagine
slave labor in there.
I think they probably do though. Don't they in the book marry them off really young, at like
Oh.
12?
I'm
I
sure.
don't know.
Yeah, so like that's
That
not
could
very
be.
much schooling.
Learning about their
Peak
biological
fertility.
destiny.
Yeah.
And then that's the point where Offred is completely losing it in the car, and like you would.
Yeah,
And
it
that was
was
an amazing
very well
performance.
done. Yeah, the whole range of like thinking that maybe she will hear you, thinking that maybe you can get out, thinking that oh my God, somebody has to notice I'm over here, to going crazy when you realize that you are not going to be allowed to have contact with her and she doesn't know you're there, and this might be the only time you see her, and you see her get like feral as any mother would in that actual situation, and it's so well done. I feel like any actual parent wouldn't have to dig real deep for that.
No.
But yeah, for a non-parent, great job.
Serena Joy gets in the front seat.
Yeah.
Which you're like, oh God. And then she's like cracks the divider just enough to like talk to her and let her scream at her, but she knows she can't do anything about it. Oh my God, it was so brutal.
And what does she say? Calm down. It's not good for the baby.
Yeah. Right.
And like,
don't get upset. It's not
Yeah,
good
and
for the
Offred
baby.
is just screaming every like insult possible that you can think of, which, I don't know. That whole scene was just brutal to me.
Yeah, I think that's about when I would put my fist through some glass.
But maybe it's reinforced. I don't know.
I don't
That was the
know.
other thing. Is like, why don't you kick out the window of the limo? Was the only other thing I was thinking.
she was pounding at it, wasn't she?
Yeah, it wasn't. It didn't seem like it was the type of thing that would give very easily.
But I mean, think about like cop cars, right? They put you in the back seat, and they have the special lock so you can't get
But
out.
this is not a cop car.
But I was in this society. I don't put anything past them of like making the cars armored, because
Sure.
they're also they're guys with guns on those.
Maybe that's why
streets.
she called for a special car.
That's good.
Maybe
That could
right,
be true.
yeah.
Very true.
And the commanders are
she
under
needed
threat
the
all the
extra
time.
reinforced
so-
car.
Yeah, it's not. I mean, they keep talking about all the people that keep trying to rebel against them, and why can't they just
Yeah.
like
Like if they
chill?
just give up.
'Cause they're
So
afraid of the
during that
Baptists.
whole thing, or after it, we get a Moira flashback. Actually, I think the Moira flashback takes place during the drive.
There's
to
a
Hannah.
few, yeah.
Because you see like the frozen tundra thing, and you think that's where Serena Joy is taking
Right, and
Offred, and you're like, what is
what
going
has
to
happened?
happen now? And then it's her.
You get Moira, and Moira's running across the field. She makes it to the house, and nobody really knows what the
Yeah.
hell is going on.
She
even
looks like frozen solid.
yeah.
She's been out there a long time.
She sneaks around and finally gets into the garage and dusts off the license plate of the car, and we are in Canada.
That was pretty smart.
That was.
I don't think I would have thought to do that, but that was a really good way to like find out where you are without risking talking to another human.
Well, you gotta wonder she's been.
But then I
through
would
this
be like
whole-
scared, like what if that car is not? It's just from
Yeah,
Ontario.
I thought of that too.
I
Yeah.
totally
Like,
thought
what
about
if you're
that, like,
still in? What if you're still in Maine?
Like we play the license plate game here. Right? Lots of
Oh no,
license
he's
plates.
just a visitor from Canada.
Here's where I felt like there were also parallels to some panic, perhaps after our election season. People start dreaming of going to Canada and what it'll be like there, and everyone will just give you unlimited mac and cheese and healthcare. And
Paid up phones.
You get a healthcare
prescription
card
cards.
immediately.
Oh my god.
I'll be great when we go to Canada.
Yeah,
Your welcome person who is clearly overworked, your caseworker, is still
And
super
it was
nice.
so nice.
And he's like your new best buddy.
Like you think every Canadian is gonna be, right?
Yeah.
And when he says that he's happy to see her, he sounds like genuinely
Yeah.
really happy to see
He's
her.
like, I guess I'm your new best friend.
Like a long lost friend, like,
Yeah.
oh, I can't believe I'm running into you right now.
I
How
know.
are you? Like
he's
he was
already
so
better than every
genuine.
American.
Do you think Margaret Atwood was like, look, we got to bring extra good to the Canadians. These are my people. We got to make them look extra good. So next we get Mr. Putnam on trial,
Ah.
and he's basically we open up with him confessing to sleeping with Janine on the side and telling her all these things and making her do all these things. And
Did you notice that though? Like while he's going through this, like he apologizes to a lot of entities and people, and not one of them is his wife or Janine or
No.
his family at all. He apologizes to like the state and the church and this group of men in front of him, and he let down his country, and that's it.
Yeah,
I was like
well,
waiting, like, okay, now you're
Well,
gonna say your family, right? Like that's
no.
that's what you say in these situations. I've seen members of Congress do it many
I
times.
guess because they're on
That's how it
TV
goes.
though, and he was just in this room with these dudes. So why
Yeah.
would he, put
That's
on
really
the
what he's
platitude
concerned
of
with.
Well, no
being concerned for the
wonder.
women?
No wonder she asked for him to get the harshest possible punishment. When they said that, I was like, woo!
She doesn't just hate babies. She hates him too.
Yeah, she just seems generally displeased with most things.
Yeah, she's
Gilead has not
Aside
treated her.
from, I
She's a very
believe, was she the
unhappy
one?
human.
No, because she was the one going through the fake
yeah. She
labor,
had the
so
fake
she was
labor.
not the cookie one. I was thinking, if she was the cookie one, and she just enjoys like giving the handmaid shit continuously, but obviously that wasn't her.
I forgot about the cookies.
So Putnam leaves after he says, I'm sorry and stuff. Should have done that. Bad things and stuff. Thank you. Sorry. And but Fred is not taking this very seriously at all. Fred's like over there sipping his drink, like, whatever. It happens.
And everyone's like, yeah, Fred.
Yeah, Fred. And
What?
everybody's like, yeah, Fred says it's cool. It's cool.
You would say
and then,
that,
again,
Fred.
Commander, who I don't remember his name, Nick's employment guy, is telling him that he's not taking it seriously enough, and that Putnam's wife came to him, and Fred makes some comment, I don't remember what it was.
He's like, don't we have a lot of work to do?
He says, like, don't we all make mistakes or something like that? I was like,
at this point,
well.
I think Fred, the cat is out of the bag on Fred, and everybody's...
Everybody
How
knows.
much do you think that they all assume about his current handmaid, though? Like, they all know about the
He
first
brought
handmaid.
her to...
Yeah.
Oh, that's
Jezebel.
true. Yeah, some of them must have seen that. But do they know that that's his handmaid, though? I mean, I feel like they don't ever see
they know
women's
it's not his
faces.
wife.
I think it's an open secret.
They don't
I think
ever see
everyone
women's
knows.
faces. I thought that everybody at Jezebel's would just assume that she was one of the Jezebels.
My assumption is they all know, but until someone brings a charge, they're all like, yeah, just keep it to yourself. But because the Warren thing was so in public, they couldn't let that go because so many people saw it.
Yeah.
So
all of those dudes with guns all witnessed. I don't know what you call
So
them.
Fred thinks that when he talks about the wife coming to him, that she was going to ask for leniency. Nay, not in Gilead, they say.
his face is amazing. His face is like, oh, this is fucked up. Like, yeah, Fred.
Have you met your wife?
I got
Fred?
a wife like that.
Or I mean, have you met your wife, Warren? Like you thought she was gonna be kind in this situation?
I think Fred was having all those thoughts too. He was like, "Oh shit,
Serena
I
would
better keep this
skewer
under
me."
wraps."
Scrabble is not worth it. So she's like, no, she asked for the harshest penalty possible. And at that point, you're thinking, okay, in the terrible, terrible land of Gilead, what is the harshest possible punishment?
And this is the worst they do to men, apparently.
I guess so.
I was
I
surprised
mean,
at this
that's
choice.
awfully late.
That was
That is getting
disappointing
off
to me.
awfully late.
Yeah, as gross as it was, which I know Maria did not enjoy this part of the show.
Did you watch it anyway?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so I guess the harshest. Now we don't know how many limbs he loses. We know he lost one.
I feel
arm
like that's got to be the only thing
below
that
the
happened
wrist.
to him.
I guess, and that's kind of a letdown.
I know.
You know,
Yeah.
and it's-
Because like that's what happens to women who read, right?
Yeah.
So same penalty, women reading,
You lose a finger the first offense and a hand the second.
Yeah.
Is that right?
or reading or writing or something.
Well,
it
you
compounds
knew.
it.
You knew it would be totally unequal. Like
Well,
the
yeah, but
punishment for
still,
men
I
and
even
women.
thought I still think I was shocked at the lightness of the worst punishment possible. for
Especially
a
because
male.
I'm for men, they just seem more expendable, right? So you can't lose the handmaid because you need her. They can find another commander, like hang him or whatever they do to persecution
That's
him.
true, yeah.
Why is he such a special guy?
Well, he was clearly a really important person. Remember, because they all commented on that when they went to the house for the birth.
It is a giant house.
They talked
yeah.
about that. Like, he is a really important person.
I was
and then
picturing more of like
Janine
a
was supposedly
ceremonial
really
disrobing
lucky.
where they like take off his badges and throw him on the ground, and then like you're no longer a commander, but now he's just a one-armed commander.
I kind of was expecting some sort of like formal title stripping like that, but also some horrible punishment because they seem to excel at horrible punishments
They do.
there. Like that's the thing they're good
That
at.
was not creative at all. You're
No.
right. Like I was expecting something really creative and twisted,
Yeah.
and it was like, oh, it's a hand.
Yeah, I mean, clearly they're not going to do anything that might, cause him to not have children, even though he probably is not great at that to begin with.
all right. So you get Offred going to Nick's room, like trying to find him, and then he's not there. And then she decides, okay, maybe I'll try Fred. So she goes to the study. At this point, we're just walking around freely like we do, and no one's concerned about anything.
I know.
All the rules have gone out.
All the rules
Yeah,
gone out
that
the
also
window.
seemed way, way not possible.
She sleeps in the bathroom with all the letters in the package. She
We'll get
walks
to that.
around
Let's
the
just
house.
skip right to that. Let's skip to that. So Offred in the package. So Fred's not going to help her out because Fred's worthless.
Well, but I do want to mention one thing about that
Yes.
scene when she was like, "Will you please protect Hannah?" And he was like, "Oh, she would never hurt a child." And she's like, "You don't know her." And it's like, so you thought Fred was gonna stand up for Hannah, did you? That was
what
your
I thought,
strategy
too.
to protect Hannah? Asking Fred?
Well,
Like-
I guess Nick was the first
Nick
option.
is the way better bet. Like,
But
wait
Nick
for
wasn't
Nick
home.
to come back.
Nick wasn't home, so she had to go talk
I'd
to
have
Fred.
skipped Fred. I've been like, we're screwed.
It's all bad.
Never
Anytime you have to count on Fred, you're really
Yeah,
is-
you are totally
in.
fine.
For
He was
sure.
like, "Oh hey."
All right,
up,
so
Fred.
let's get to the packages in the bathroom. So she pulls the package out, and like I felt like I was kind of let down by the package because I was thinking, oh cool, we're gonna get a bomb, we're gonna blow up the house. It's gonna be like Django Unchained at the end, where the whole thing just explodes. It's gonna be amazing.
Wow.
Which I
that's
knew
quite
wasn't
a
gonna be the
leap.
case, but I was
Okay.
kind of hoping for. What?
Nothing. That's I was
what happens
interested
at the end of Django.
I remember.
Yeah.
I was just surprised to hear that's what you were hoping it was going to be.
Oh yeah, let's blow this whole thing up. You
All
heard my
right.
thoughts on Game of Thrones. One end,
True.
one end. Let's meet in the middle and kill everybody. So she's reading them, and they're all from various women who are handmaids who are giving their tales of all the terrible things that have happened to them in Gilead. And then she's reading them, and then she falls asleep. So I guess we're to assume that they're trying to deliver these messages outside of the country.
And
Yeah.
my first thought is, yeah, you delivered one to Mexico and see how that one turned out, right? Like, I would hope that something would happen, but I'm not sure, especially when the Canadian guy knows he knows what's going on and he receives
Yeah.
Moira and all that. Like, it was a letdown because it felt like, well, yes, I hope that they're doing that, but I was hoping for more of a bombshell. Like,
Yeah,
she's got a hand in the revolution rather than like
Yeah.
just another kind of.
Yeah, I was trying to come up with like reasons that would be a good thing for everybody to be risking their life for, and really all I could come up with was convincing people that this is really happening because people in the outside world are constantly being given disinformation by the regime, but also I think the thing that makes it worth delivering is it lets their loved ones on the outside know that those women are alive.
True. Yeah.
Oh, that's a good point.
And that's what I had to like, I guess, decide on as the best
then I
reason
felt
I
like,
could come up with.
could
But
they maybe-
still, crazy dangerous.
Maybe ask her if she wanted to write one. I don't know. Like, add to the bundle.
Well, maybe this is what they start doing before they get to what is the, how the book ends, where this is all
the
recorded
tapes,
history.
yeah.
It's tapes. It's audio tapes of her telling her story. Like, maybe the letters are what they were doing before that. I don't know.
All right, so she falls asleep, which I think is like the biggest, like,
What?
Yeah.
The
no.
biggest thing in this-
With the letters
this-
everywhere.
No.
yeah,
Yeah, no.
No.
just dumb, right? Like, if there's anywhere
That
I'm
would
not
never
falling asleep,
happen.
it's pretty much anywhere in this entire society. You're not safe anywhere. It doesn't matter. Like, I guess you're safe in your bed, maybe. There's no good place to fall asleep.
You're
in
not
Gilead.
safe
I
in
think that's
Serena's
just
bed.
we can assume. So we get another Moira scene, which is what you guys were discussing before, which is her getting her nice Canadian care package, meeting her nice Canadian people in the nice Canadian offices of the refugee center.
Surprisingly clean refugee center, too.
Very clean. Everything
very
is very
clean and
clean, very nice,
organized.
and very lovely. Like
Running smoothly.
like everyone hopes Canada is if we ever have to go there soon. So next scene is June Offred waking up to the sound of 3 bells, and she's like, "Oh, 3 bells! There's a salvaging today. Better get my letters off the floor." And you're like, "What?"
She's like
casually?
lazily waking up on the floor.
She clearly was never the kid who like unwrapped secretly the presents under the Christmas tree and then placed the tape precisely where it had been before so no one knew.
Were you that
You
kid?
sound like you're speaking from experience.
Maybe.
I think you must have been.
I was never that
Admit
kid.
it.
I was afraid of my mother. So then we're trying to figure out who are they salvaging. Because my first thought when they're on their way, I was like, "Oh, is it going to be Nick?" Because
because he was gone.
Because he didn't need to be driven. He didn't need him to drive him anywhere. So I was like, "Uh-oh." And she's like, doesn't need Nick anymore because Nick's done the deed.
I was
and-
really hoping it was going to be Warren. Like, maybe there was more.
No, I knew it wasn't Warren, but I thought it was Nick too. And
Oh,
then the
really?
second she says endanger a child, I was like, oh
Yeah.
no,
yeah.
it's
As soon as
Janine.
they showed her looking really sad, I was like, oh shit.
yeah.
Here's also where it
'Cause
starts
she
to go
looked
awry.
So
No.
So
Not
in the
quite.
book, and this isn't just like a nitpicking, everything should be like the book issue, but in the book, purposely, I think, the salvagings or the persecution, they use the word kind of interchangeably. The men are the tear you apart, stone you, whatever, but they hang the women. And I think when I saw this, it just made me think because it's much harder to convince the women to participate in killing the other women.
Yes.
And so right from
yeah,
where it
that
started,
makes
I was like, no, they're not going to buy this. And then they didn't buy it. And
Right.
it just felt like, though there was a reason why Atwood wrote it that way, because there's going to be a limit to the kind of coercion that they can
Is
use.
that in the book?
I didn't think that much about it.
Not
but I think you're
Janine
right.
specifically, but they have a death scene where they tear apart the guy and they hang the women.
Yeah, like the one that happened early on in the season.
Yeah, so once we do figure out it's Janine, and I didn't put any of it together. I was just kind of letting it wash over me, and then I was like, "Oh no, it's Janine! Please don't kill Janine. Janine's super my favorite.
Janine's Justin's reason for living.
I love it.
And she's
I
all,
love it.
hey, like fully in
I know.
Janine
Oh man, in her
mode.
full-on childlike adult.
Yeah.
situation.
She's
And I
all
feel like
Janining out.
that was the other thing. I don't really think she's that crazy. I think that's just where she goes.
I think she's drugged.
Well, she could be drugged, but I don't think she's necessarily that nuts. I just think that's where she has to go in her head to kind of deal with it all.
But I don't think she does that consciously.
No.
Maybe.
I think that is totally that's what's happening to her because of the situation, and that is where her mind is going as like a self-protection thing. But I don't think she's doing it on purpose.
Also, I knew
I
jumping
think
off
that's
that
her
bridge would
mind's
not
way of
kill her.
protecting her.
We're so mad about the bridge.
I know. I still kind of want.
And I know you guys talked about this last podcast where you were talking about how did she get the baby and make it to the house.
I really wanted to. If they were gonna make that plausible, I really wanted to see that part.
Which makes you think, just how effective are these cattle prod ear tag things? Or not
What
cattle
are
prod,
they
but
even for?
the ear
Tracking
tag.
them.
Like, if
I
we
think it's
can't
just for
catch
identifying
Nutty Janine leaving of Daniel's house, going to a Warren's house, taking a newborn baby or like a 6-month-old baby, and going to a bridge, is like, why do you even have the tags? Like, they don't even do anything.
And
I don't think the tags do anything because they're all about not using technology for anything except government.
Yeah, that's
And they did establish the fact that of Daniel's house was far away.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you
So-
gotta think she was thinking that it was far away from the baby,
Right.
From Warren.
Things is what she said, but
Yeah.
you knew that she was talking about the baby.
And Warren.
So
sadly.
they gather them around, and everybody's like, "Oh, we got to stone Janine," and so they tell them to start, and then nobody is willing to
And
cast the
it's
first
new-
stone, as it were.
And it's New Uglan that steps forward
Of
first.
Yes,
all
because
people. It was her
as I said,
redeeming
this
moment.
is where apparently the line gets drawn for her.
Which I found to be kind of curious.
Stoning another handmaid is
I
complete.
guess when I thought
I mean,
about
there's
it, because
gotta
it
be a
annoyed
line
me.
somewhere for her.
I guess when it got down to it, the reason that she likes this society is because she's safe and taken care of. And so if she sees that that's now a
Yeah.
possibility, that that's not the case, that she would. But it's a big leap from just 2 seconds earlier when she was
Being
playing the
like-
"No, you shut up" game.
Yeah.
Yes,
Having
I
like
agree.
the most juvenile fight ever
can make us
to
late. Oh, God.
no, like the person who's like, no,
Well, and you. Well,
I didn't buy it.
And then she gets wonked in the head by the mean guy
Yeah,
with
she
the
gets
gun.
pistol whipped for her efforts.
And then
Oh,
when
yeah.
June pulls up, they're like, "Oh no, though that's mine to Aunt Lydia's. That's mine to deal with."
but my only thinking there was that Aunt Lydia maybe knows that she's pregnant.
I
I feel like she would have
kinda
said
thought
that.
too.
Yeah,
But who would she say that to?
The
group.
audience
The guy?
at large,
I guess so.
everyone.
like she's pregnant. You
I don't
can't
know.
touch her. You do whatever you want with those other ones. But
Yeah, I did kind of think that was a little shenanigans.
I don't know. I kind of wrote it off as like Aunt Lydia was like shocked by what happened to fake of Glenn, and
and then wants to
and then was like,
take
whoa,
control
whoa,
again.
whoa! If that's what's gonna
That's fair.
happen, we need to put a stop to this because these are my
And so
adopted
then-
twisted
okay,
babies.
So everybody tell me how they felt about the big moment, which was dropping the rock and saying, "Sorry, Aunt Lydia."
Dropping
and-
the rock instead of the
Drop instead of the mic, yeah. Saying sorry, Aunt Lydia, and collectively, peace
I think
out.
it could have been more powerful just to have him stand there, like not say anything, not doing anything big symbolic, just like, no, we're just gonna wait you out and see what happens. I do think it like swells the emotion or whatever to have it be more active than that.
I think I liked that it made all of them make a decision, whereas standing there is just, making a decision by not making a
passive
decision.
decision,
It's
yeah.
making a passive decision. And this was that they had to do something and say something. And I think that was more symbolic of each of them buying into the, like, this is too far. This is not okay. We're not going to stand for this.
Now, is right after that, is that where they didn't want us to be an army, they shouldn't have given us uniforms?
She says that.
No,
at the
that was
beginning.
way earlier.
Oh, it's way earlier?
Yeah.
I totally couldn't
that was
remember where it
early in
happened.
the episode. And I thought
Okay.
it was a weird reference early in the episode,
Right.
but then it made sense at the end.
And so in this, we get our, I don't know, it feels like probably our third walking down the street confidently scene.
Yeah, it's a lot.
Yeah.
It's a lot.
Which I think is playing
Is
your
it
hand
always
a
the
little
same
too
street?
much. What?
Is it always the same street?
No,
there's-
because this one was
There's always
downhill.
music.
This one was downhill, so this is like the big street. I don't,
I don't know.
where all
You
the
don't know your
handmaids
Boston
live. Apparently,
geography?
maybe it's only by street because those were the handmaids that all left. Were the ones on the same street because
They're
they all
peeling
split off
off.
into their
That
own
seems
houses.
weird to me.
So there was only like 20.
Yeah,
of
that
them.
was a little weird. It was very synchronized
Well, I
swimming.
guess it's like Millionaire's Row, and they just all
Yeah,
happen to live
very
in the
much
same.
so. And so let's have the heated debate on whether the song was a good choice or not. Sarah
I didn't
says
like
that
it.
Nina Simone
But would you
feeling
have
good.
liked that scene with a different song, or would you? Is there
I
no
would've
song that
liked
would make you
something-
happy with that scene?
I would have liked something a little less derivative, or maybe a remix. Like, if you'll remember the scene where they're shooting up the coffee shop and
yeah.
Offred and Moira take cover, or June and Moira take cover, and they do that cool like remake mix of Heart of Glass by Blondie, and you're like, oh, and I've heard Heart of Glass a million times, but it was different in that way, and you're like, cool, and they slowed it down. So like, I don't think it was that I didn't like Feeling Good by Nina Simone or whatever.
no.
It was like they could have kind of mixed it up and done something a little different. I mean, they may as well have done like, these boots are made for walking, like, you know, like something super cliche, and you'd been like, bah. So I did not love the song choice here or at the end, but we'll get to that when we get to that.
I think maybe I did enjoy that, and I really, really deeply love Nina Simone singing that song, so that probably had something to do with it. That's a
beautiful
Nina
song.
Simone is awesome.
It's a beautiful song.
And that is such a good song.
It is.
After we've had our Handmaid's Tale confident walk peeled off from the street and everybody's feeling good about themselves, so the song goes, we get Moira. And yeah, I lost it on this scene. This was all the feels. All the feels. Rhea, smirking, love it.
Stone cold
so
sober.
Moira is walking out of the building.
Right, I guess.
Walking out of the friendly Canadian refugee shelter, or at least center. And Luke shows up at the end of the hallway, and we didn't mention earlier that they were talking about the list.
Yeah.
They said you can put a list of family members on, and if somebody from your list pops up, you'll be notified via cell phone, which they also gave her, right? A cell phone?
Yeah.
Paid up
Everybody
for
gets
12
a cell
months.
phone.
I'm sure it gets great coverage everywhere in Canada. And so Luke is there, and she's like, sees Luke, and
Yeah, you can see like her have that moment of disbelief, like somebody I know is alive here.
Right. Well, I
and
thought she was
here,
gonna
present at this moment.
Well, I thought she was gonna like say he was the family. Like, I don't know. I feel like if you only know one person that escaped, and she knows he escaped because Offred told her at Jezebel.
Oh, that's true. Yeah.
So I feel like even if he's not technically your family, if you get to Canada and you've escaped and you only know one other person
And then you
in
see
Canada,
him.
you go, Luke, he's my guy. That's my brother or my cousin or something. Make it up. I don't even care.
Well,
it just seemed weird that
in this episode altogether, she didn't say much, and it was wonderfully acted, of course, by her. It was a lot of face acting again, like we've seen, and or facting, as I'm trying to get going. But either way, she seems so shell-shocked. Like, he's doing all these things. He's saying wonderful things. And you know that in anybody's mind ever, they'd be like, oh, my God, thank you so much. This is the greatest thing that could happen. You know, she's been tortured and, like, raped and just all these things. But she's so shocked, I think, that she made it. Because, a week ago or however long it was, she was like, I'm going to come out of here feet first into a van. Like, that's what, she had totally accepted her fate. And now everything has changed so drastically for her in so many amazing ways. And I'm sure she had a pretty arduous, like, long, awful journey to get to where she was. So the whole time, Moira was just so shocked. And then she sees Luke, and you still get the sense that she can't believe what's happening. Like, everything is working out so well for her in this, like, small chain of events after so many awful things that she's still just not even piecing it together. Like, this is amazing. I have a phone, mac and cheese, like all these things. So you just get the sense that she's just not even processing. So maybe, like, had she been there a few weeks, she'd been like, oh, wait, I know this guy. Yeah. He's married to my friend. Like, but she's still just like, what?
And that's why I think I was hoping for like a celebration of her like badassery, right? That she made it. She somehow beat the odds and made it out. And what hit me in the wrong way or like touched the wrong nerve with the Luke thing is that here we have the guy who like didn't really go along with any of the resistance stuff, who was like, I'll take care of you, and Moira's like, you're full of shit. And then at the end of the day, what happens? Like, oh yeah, he gets to be the one to comfort her.
But he didn't take care of her. Canada took care of her.
See, I
She
think you're getting
saved
mad
herself.
at Luke
Yeah,
for things
I'm
that
I'm
he's
not mad at him.
guilty
It's
of.
the show like framing it as like, and now everything's great because they're reunited, and he is the one who's already established there.
I was just
No.
really happy to see Moira see that somebody considers her family. That was the thing that was like
That was
really.
I wish it had been in a way that
awesome
like
to see
celebrated
that, like
her
Moira,
strength.
you even saw like in the flashbacks to the beginning of the government going down and everything happening, her being like who's gonna own Moira's stuff now because she doesn't have family, she doesn't have a male next of kin, she doesn't have anybody to help her, and you get the impression that like she's not close with her family or whatever because she is close to her friend's family, she's close to June's family and has kind of adopted them. And I think for her to like go through everything that she's gone through this far and make the long arduous journey up to Canada, finally make it, she survived, she got there, she's like overwhelmed by the kindness of the center that she winds up in for refugees in Canada, and then she walks out and sees probably the only person that's alive and escaped that she knows, and is just kind of blown away by that, and then realizes that she finds out from him that he had put her down on his list of family to find out about if she ever made it out, and that would just be the best thing that ever happened to her at that point.
I think it could have been cool if they'd made it from like her putting him down, or something that put her in the position of like having achieved this tremendous.
I didn't need that.
That is why that scene was powerful, because she didn't. Like, I think all too often strong characters are always depicted as always strong, or the people in your life who are strong are always strong. And when you finally see them break down or be vulnerable, you're kind of snapped into like oh yeah,
you're human too.
You can't always be strong all the time. You normally are, and in lots of situations you are, and that's what makes you you, and that's what I respect about you. But you're also a person. So I loved that she didn't even think to put him down as family, and he put her down as family, and that she was so like touched by that. I thought that was the coolness of it, because Moira is vulnerable. Yes, she escaped. Yes, she is strong, and those are the things that really define her. But like anybody, she's complex. She's not always strong, and I liked that they showed her in that moment of like she had totally done the undoable. Like, she escaped, and that is a feat in and of itself. So she can't just like power through the refugee center and be like, give me my mac and cheese. I know, Luke. Like, you can't be always
so
in control.
overwhelmed. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Like, she summoned the strength when she needed to, and then she powered down when she had to. Like, you can't be strong all the time. So I thought it was cool that she was like, woo, like, you just...
I mean, you could tell that she was just out of that face that she puts on. The brave face, the kind of front that keeps her from being emotionally vulnerable. You could just tell that she was just spent and probably didn't even have it in her to be the way that she had been portrayed for the vast majority of the show. And so I thought it was touching as well. So 3 out of 4, he loses. So back to Offred, who's standing at the window talking about how she knows there's going to be consequences for what they did. And everybody's like, yeah. Hope you enjoyed your happy little confident march down the street because you're all about to lose your feet. And so then she sees the van pull up, and she's like, oh, here it comes. And so she just kind of do this little mini panic attack, but then Nick, the 2 redeeming things he's done in this entire show, shows up, and what I think he whispers to her is just go with them, trust me.
And that's what he says in the book. Right? And here's like when it comes back to the book.
In the book, he tells her that it's Mayday.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah.
He says they're Mayday.
So
go with them.
she turns and goes with the guys that are there who are part of the Eye. And as they're walking out, like, Serena Joy like pops out of nowhere from the second floor and is like, where are you going?
We're going with my baby.
Her anything, like, not even acknowledging her presence, and she's
like
screaming
amazing,
at them.
yeah.
And then Fred pops out like randomly from the study, going, "Hey, I'm in the middle of this Scrabble game. What's going on?" And because he's probably already replaced
Solo
her.
Scrabble.
So yes,
it's your turn.
Solo Scrabble.
I win again. Go me. I'm a genius.
He's got to feel good. He's got to feel good about himself somehow.
I am number 1, not 1A. So they won't even tell Fred. They just tell him papers are in order. It's all cool. And then they walk her out, but not before Serena Joy, confronts her and is like, "What did you do?" And then she gives her like this comment, which she in her own head has to know is not true. It's like, after everything we've done for you. And I'm like, what?
Yeah, I'm not really sure what she meant by that.
I'm surprised that Serena Joy hasn't heard of the salvaging rock dropping incident at this point, right? Because my assumption is that they're going under the guise of like, we're punishing all of these women for their non-participation.
Yeah, they seem to not have a clue what they were even there for. Sorry. Sarah breaking things. They don't tell either of them anything other than the papers are in order, and she walks out and gives Serena Joy this one last glance from the bottom of the steps, which even at that point I'm thinking, really? I think you're pushing it just a little bit. Let's dial it down
She was just about to give her the finger, and I was the whole time just like, whoa. Just go with them. Don't ruin it.
Exactly.
Just go with them. You're getting out.
She gets into the van and then talks about how she doesn't know whether she's going to live or die, but yet she was confident enough in the fact that maybe she wasn't going to die to give Serena Joy the look of death. Like, haha, look what I did. I'm escaping. Maybe.
I don't know. Do you think that's what that's about? Or maybe she was just like, well, I don't have to deal with you anymore, bitch.
No, I think that was totally I got one over on you. Which she didn't even really. Nick really did the legwork. Not that I'm calling Nick the, savior of the universe, but, he hasn't really done anything up to this point. the connections he did have seemed to, maybe, we don't know, worked out in her
She
favor.
quite literally cannot save herself.
No.
There is no way
Yeah.
in this society that she's
correct.
worming her way out of this.
And what about Hannah?
I don't know. Moira managed it.
What
Moira
about her
could
threat?
do it.
Like, what about Hannah?
That's what I was thinking too. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, maybe she just knows that there's nothing that she can do about it, or maybe I don't know.
Well, Serena Joy apparently can't do anything because they just hauled the pregnant woman out of her house, and Serena Joy had zero power in that situation. So I don't know what
Very
she thinks
true.
she can do to Hannah, but
And so that's where it closes with American Girl by Tom Petty, which my favorite game to always play is whether that's going to end up being Tom Petty American Girl or Last Night by the Strokes, because they are
They
the
do.
same
Yeah.
guitar
Really?
part. Oh,
Yeah.
yeah. And so I was really hoping it was American Girl, because that in my head made more sense, because the lyrics for Last Night do not make any sense in the context of this TV show. So
Still
yeah,
a good
American
song.
Girl plays, and then you get the credits, and that's it. That's all you got. What becomes of, I guess, season 2 is when we're going to find out.
Yeah.
What happens.
well, they're clearly setting up lots of cool stuff for Moira, which I'm excited
So
about.
Yes.
excited about that.
Yes.
So excited.
Well, the other thing I did think was interesting for Moira was that her vibe in the refugee place kind of gave me the vibe of someone, like if you think of like Shawshank Redemption, when they get out of prison and they can't really adjust back to regular life. Like she's been in this terrible situation so long that she just doesn't even know how to be in a normal situation where someone is actually doing something nice for her.
Well, if you were raped several times a day for years,
I'd be on the wall.
that'd be
my
enough
God.
to really knock you or your screws loose.
Yeah.
I would have made that toilet shove a long time ago.
I'd be hanging out with the other sociology professors and Jezebels.
That's right. I totally thought about that when they talked. That one's a sociology professor, and I was like, "Oh, Ria's gotta love that."
I'd be the dog lady, I guess. I don't know.
Would you be the one chained up with the dog?
They're like, she's weird. Just put her with a dog, and I'd be like, am I doing it right?
Dream big, Sarah. You could have your arm chopped off and licked. Let's
This is true.
shoot for the stars.
So yeah, that's it for the season. I mean, obviously there's a lot of material left for them to chew on, so there's plenty left.
We don't have a timeline on season 2, do we?
No, it said 2018, so
It's
that's
so long.
kind of wide open.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm
I'm sure
not
it's going to feel like forever.
It will feel like forever. So that's it for our podcast as far as the episodes of the shows go.
So join us next week as we wrap up the season. We'll talk to our friend Delia Harrington. We'll talk to Krista Martin, and we'll have some people back here for the podcast to discuss what we thought of the entire season, kind of give an overall wrap up, and discuss what the future plans are for Mayday the Handmaid's Tale podcast. So thank you for listening to Mayday the Handmaid's Tale podcast. We'll talk to you next time.